Alright guys, here we go. What are we looking at here? Hope everyone's had a good Christmas and a good New Year. A lot of people have been talking about it currently at the CES Expo. Some people have said they don't have the go-ahead to do this. Well, I do. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Creality K1C. But it's a new chapter, it's a fresh look, future, make it happen. The logo, the new motto of Creality. Let's dive into it. Let's waste no further time with that. Alright, we're back, and yes, there it is, K1C. See, carbon, yep, it's been confirmed. It's the Creality K1C carbon. No, it's not in retaliation to Bamboo's new printer, or anyone else's printer for that matter. I've been given authority by one of the representatives at Creality. I'm not endorsed. I don't have an NDA agreement. I'm just an affiliate who is just like you guys, a hobbyist and enthusiast. I've got all the information. I've got all the specs. I've got all the pictures. Yep, I've got all the stuff that everyone's hesitant to release, and we're going to go through it right now. Everything. The first on YouTube. Let's do it. Here we are. K1C. We've got a build volume of 220 by 220 by 250. Straight off the bat, you can see already the front build plate has changed somewhat. So they've got an integrated aluminium front plate. Now, I'm not exactly sure. One of the few things I can't confirm whether they've changed the heating element surface underneath the build plate to make so that the build plate is actually, can actually reach a higher, not so much a higher temperature, but the consistency and the speed and heat of the bed can actually reach temperature quicker. I do know that the front plate, although most people would probably say it are taking off from a copy of the Bamboo Labs P1S and so on, but basically what that front plate is, as far as I'm aware, is it's to stabilize the plate itself from the front mounting lead axis pivot point so that there's less flex in the bed. So that's the initial picture. Moving right along, we'll go through the pictures of the actual K1C to start off with, and then we'll jump right into the nitty gritty, which is all the cool stuff, all the specs, the internals, all the upgrades and so on. There's another photo obviously showcasing what looks to be a pedal of some type made out of carbon fiber. Now, yes, we know that the K1 Speedy and the K1 Mac can print carbon fiber, but basically from what I take from this and the Creality spokesperson I've been talking to and going back and forth with on this K1C topic is that they've brought this product out as a way of not only improving the K1 Speedy and the K1 Mac, although they have been quite well, how do I say it? They've done a very good job, Creality, I'd have to say. From the beginning of when they brought that K-Series out, it was a bit of a mess, but their focus has been customer support. I think they've really stepped their game up with that. They've, to having the kits they brought out to alleviate the extrusion problems and Hotend failures and heat sensor problems and PCB boards and so on. I think that's been fantastic for what they've done for the community as a whole. Also, so they've improved the Creality slicer, Creality print. I think that's come a long way as well. But outside of that, that's what it looks like. So they've brought the K1 Carbon out for the reason being that they wanted to produce a machine that still was within the hobbyist or enthusiast range, but also could cater for the semi-professional that wanted to prototype designs or come up print design using materials that were more exotic, be it HIPS or PC nylon and carbon fiber, P6, 12, all these different fibers and filament that a lot of the other printers, including some of the the K1 and the K1 Max, can't export to that regard. So that's their main focus for the carbon. It wasn't a focus for just having it so that it can print carbon. We're all well aware that the K1 Max and the Speedy can actually do that, but that's the reason behind that. There is a lot of features in this carbon series that makes this blow the K1 Speedy out of the water. Obviously, it's a newer version. There's nothing wrong with the Speedy, but if you're looking to buy a printer that can do, materials at a price point like no other, this will be it. I'll go into the pricing approximate details shortly, but let's move on to the next slot photo. There you can see the door axis there. They're still using the plexiglass panels on the left and right side. Same roof style. What they have done, obviously, they've still got the tempered glass front door, the same 4.3-inch touchscreen, LCD, and the same footing plate. They have, to a certain degree, adjusted the footings, which we'll go into in a second, in another photo slideshow. where you'll notice they've adjusted the footing plates that the inserts sit on to give it more stability as well. You can clearly see by zooming in there that the plate itself has that front bracket mount on there. Obviously, again, 220 by 250. And you also notice one small thing straight away is if you look behind that carbon pedal is a different shroud of fan. So what they've done is they've actually changed because of the fact that it's going to print more specialized filament material, they've increased the fan density and capacity whilst minimizing the rear noise and making it more premium in the fact that it has a better filtration back, which I have another photo of to show you shortly, as well as, you know, the front shroud being a metal shroud as well, which sort of looks more familiar to your sort of old school sort of fan grills you'd find on a lot of PC build day. So that's that. Pretty straightforward there. Moving along to the next one. All right, there's a side shot there. Again, showcasing the side build. Shroud on the top, very similar to the K1 Speedy. Not much there. That just shows another angle. You will notice if you look carefully there, well, I'll point it out for you right here. Okay, you see the side fan there, the accessory side blower fan. They have changed that. So what they've done is they've put an entire fan shroud that not only keeps the vibration down from the blower fan blowing from the side, but it also mitigates any filament going or any dust and, you know, fibrous material, fine stringing material going into that fan, which can be a bit of a problem over time. And also because it's what do you call it? Plexiglass, sorry. I've forgotten the name of it, but the acrylic side panels, there you go, does flex a bit. So having that plastic shroud that fully encompasses that side blower fan does actually mitigate the vibration on the enclosure itself on the panel and also mitigate some of the sound. All right. Next slideshow, we're just going to punch it out. We're just going to keep going and just get right into the nitty-gritty. We're not here to muck around today. We're here to get down and dirty. Just so you know, guys, I've been holding out for this video. I was away on holidays without going off topic. I actually had permission to punch out all these specs, all these pictures. You know, I had guys from, you know, Sam's Apprentice, 3D Rundown, Nathan's Robots, all these other YouTubers and great 3D printer guys, you know, with NDAs or no NDAs. I got approved to put out all this information 2 weeks ago. Why didn't I put it out? Well, I didn't really want to spoil it, but at the same time, I had to take a bit of a break. So I'm new to the YouTube scene, but hopefully, you know, I'm not US, I'm in Australia, one of the few guys that does this stuff from the bottom of the world, let's just say. So anyway, that's that. So anyway, straight away you can see off the back there, the Speedy. What they've also done is they've relocated somewhat the filament sensor as well. It still has the spool carrier on the back, but there's a little surprise about that that I'll go into details in a little bit in a second. But you'll also notice on the back there, just here, there's a completely different enclosure caption that encapsulates a whole new carbon filtration. And what that's designed to do is be a better filter, whether or not you put an extraction pipe or whatever you want to do, duct on it. Excuse me. It will basically just improve the filtration of the exhaust fumes from the actual internal cabinet itself. Now, getting back to one of the big things that not many people know about is we all know how frustrating it is to have a K1 and K1 Max. I have one myself, and there's so many printable STLs, and there's some great ones out there as well for different spool holders. There's top mounted spool holders, there's TPU spool holders, there's side mounted, you know, acrylic spool holders, there's standalone mount bearing spool holders. Well, I'm here to tell you, this has been confirmed by some data sheets that I've got and a rep, well, a quite highly regarded rep, I won't go into, that the K1C will in fact include, I'm not going to say the exact amount, but it will include up to 30 STL files for you to print. That's right, I said it. Up to 30 STL files for you to print that will enable you to have professionally designed STLs to print modified spool holders and accessories for your K1 carbon. I don't know about you, but that is awesome. I mean, if that isn't Creality going above and beyond with a printer, I don't know what is. I mean, and not only that, but you can obviously use those STL files, well, I assume most or if not half of them, for your K1 Speedy, and probably modify them for your K1 Max as well. Now, I have no word on whether they're going to release a K1C Mac. Not sure about that yet. Wouldn't put it past Creality to do that. I think it would probably be a good idea. I'm not sure on that. When I do find that out, I can guarantee you this, though. Not only in Australia, but I can guarantee you I'm going to be the first to break the news. I'm even going to put one out there to all the Yankee Doodle USA guys out there. I will beat you to it. Why? Oh, well, you'll see. That's all I'm going to say about that. Anyway, so yeah, 30 STL files to print spool holders and accessories for your K1C carbon. That is incredible. I think that's an awesome idea. I think that's a concept that Creality have done. I can't confirm whether it's 30 exactly. I do have it on a data sheet that it's an accessory feature that comes with the USB printable files with the K1 carbon. That said, it probably and most likely will change, be it more or less. So there you go. There's a bit of an insider one for you there. So no more rear feeders, no more having a cart with, going to various sites, which is nothing wrong with doing that. But for the time being anyway, when you get your K1C, if you go out and get a K1C, because I know I will get one as well as soon as it comes out, I'm getting my hands on one. It's going to be a really good option to be able to print those STLs straight out the file. So that's awesome. All right, next one. So we're breaking some big news here. We're breaking strides. I'm giving you information that no one else has got. I know some people have turned around and said, "Oh, we're going to do this. We're going to put that information out." Oh, well, there you go. I've just told you something that I probably shouldn't have. That you've just. Yeah, now you've got it. Do with it what you will, but it's awesome. All right, next one. Here we go. So that's just a bit of a screenshot. Sorry about the translation. I used Google Translate from Chinese, sorry. And that just goes into detail, basically saying about the integration with the cloud, just like the K1 Mac, that it'll have an integrated focus on model sharing and exchange and so on and so on. I think the actual the touchscreen interface, much like the difference you'll notice if you viewed the KE, the V3, the end of 3 V3 KE Nebula pad, which is very similar to the K1 series pad. But it does actually have features. For instance, the K1 Max, once you start printing, you can't adjust the speed of the print via the touchscreen. You can't adjust the flow rate on the print screen, and you can't adjust the fan on the print screen, unless, of course, you have lovely word, or jailbroke the access of the firmware on the K1 series. So straight out the box, I'm pretty sure that that's going to have that ability, just like the KE, where you can adjust the fan speed, the actual print speed, and the extrusion percentage as well, which I think is a great option as well, without even rooting the actual firmware itself. And on top of that, another insider little tip is the simple fact that the KE itself, the Ender 3 V3 KE, is going to have root access. So all you guys out there with the Ender 3 V3 KE, like I have as well, I'll also be releasing a full review video on that, on top of the other one I did 4 weeks ago, where I'll be doing all the add-on accessories, Nebula, the light bar, the LiDAR feature. I don't know if you know, but the KE has in the settings the ability to have the pressure advance sense added to it and a LiDAR as well, which I think is awesome. There you go, my phone went off. I just got in trouble for telling you guys stuff, ladies and gentlemen, that I probably shouldn't have, but it's all right. We'll just keep doing it. Let's do it. Let's get it out there. All right, let's break all the rules that we can, be as cheeky as possible. Why not? Well, I think it's great. The more Creality can be aware of what we want and what we don't want, I think is awesome. And I think Creality have made great strides in making their company themselves better, and improving their quality and listening to their customers on what they want and what they've been lacking, really sort of concerned about with the products. So I think moving forward, Creality have really got their eye on the prize, and I can't see nothing but forward. All right, next screenshot. Here we go again. All right, here's a close-up of the bed. So as you can see here, we've got the bed access, very similar bed. The mounting system off the actual rails, off the stepper motors themselves, off the dual access point front and the rear, which I'll show you in a photo very shortly, has been improved. So the actual mounting mechanism and block that hold the bed in place have been improved to further stabilize the bed itself. You'll also notice, apart from the which I was the blocks, these blocks here are a lot better. But you'll also notice, apart from the front build plate we spoke about before, which has got the front cover plate, further improve the rigidity of the bed itself. If you look right at the back there, you're going to see this little tab here. Now, if you've got a K1 or a K1 Max, or even a KE for that matter, you'll notice that that has the nozzle wipe or clean function. What they've actually done is they've realized that sometimes, depending on the automatic Z offset setting, that it can in fact scratch or wear on PEI flex sheet. So what they've done is incorporated this textured style, I can't confirm what type of material it is, but textured style material where it actually is similar to like a wire brush, but it doesn't actually scratch the actual surface of the nozzle, and actually cleans the nozzle shroud itself as well as the filament head, which I think is a really, really good upgrade. I won't go into details screen there as it's in Chinese, but I do have the features of that, what that is, in a next other slideshow, which we'll go through now. So that's pretty cool. The next one we've got, all right, here we go. Sorry about the picture. This one's a bit of a blurred one. So basically this feature is a new feature to the K1C carbon, is that it has different features. Now, as I spoke about before with the K1 and Speedy and the K1 Max, you cannot adjust the fan speeds, or you can adjust the fan speeds. You can't adjust the flow rates and the printing speeds on the fly through the touch screen itself, through the Nebula system. But the new system with the K1C carbon actually has a feature where you can actually boost the speeds above 100% to a maximum of 125. I think crazy. And also, as we know that it's quite loud. I mean, it's gonna be very hard to have a printer that, you know, everyone complains about. A lot of YouTubers out there that review 3D printers complain about the noise of 3D printers. But to be perfectly honest, I mean, and you're not running 120, 140 millimeter fans like you do on a PC, so it's almost impossible to get the actual amount of airflow, you know, without actually, you know, having the acceleration of the actual brushless fan whining and making that noise. So what they've actually done is they've made it so that, yes, you can increase the speed of the air distribution itself, but you can also, for instance, if you're doing a print that's a long print and you're in a room that you need a bit of noise reduction, or you're going to bed and you've got a print going overnight, you can actually have access to what they call silent mode. And what that does is, I think one of the other channels they measured, don't quote me on this, approximately 57 to 63 decibel at 80%, and with silent mode it reduces it to 45 decibel, which is actually really good. So that's quite a reduction. That's what are we, 20 to 25 decibel reduction, which I think is absolutely crazy. Sorry, mic up. I think that's an awesome feature. That just goes to show what they've done. They've gone above and beyond this. I mean, could you imagine if they released, you know, a K1 like this back in, you know, May, June, when the Speedy came out? All these haters wouldn't have been hating, that's for sure. But I can tell you now, we're past all that. And there's nothing but, we skipped ahead there, but there's nothing but good things ahead. So I think that's an awesome feature. Silent mode, 45 decibels. I think that's really going to be great idea. So next one, which we jump back to again. So this is basically showing you what I spoke about earlier with the introduction of the side mount fan, the blower fan, where they've basically fused a full enclosed wraparound cover over the fan, not only as a protection from filament and fine filament from stringing, but also to improve the vibration from the fan itself, and thus improving the fan cooling rate as well. Obviously, with an enclosed printer, the less vibration you get out of the printer, especially when you're using acrylic panels. You know, it's different if you're using tempered glass, you know, or different type of materials that don't flex. But when you've got an aluminium frame, you've got acrylic and those sorts of materials or panels, you're bound to have flex through vibration, and that can cause turbulence, believe it or not, in the airflow itself, which can then that can actually influence the actual. You can imagine if the air itself through vibration is actually you know, you know, just like an airplane, I suppose. That's an extreme example. Then the air itself is a on and off vibrative effect of airflow. That's going to affect somewhat your print quality, especially the surface print quality, as it's not going to have that same smooth rate of airflow affecting the print as it's cooling from being heated. So I think that's a really good improvement. And it's obviously, as it says there, it's going to effectively eliminate problems such as the drawing, which is basically what they mean by that is, you know, the actual surface of the print, and warping and sagging for bridges, which I think is really good as well. So we're nearly there, guys. When I say we're nearly there, I don't mean we're at the end. I mean we're just halfway, if that. Now we're getting into the nitty gritty. So this is that's all the, you know, I wouldn't say basic stuff, but that's all the exterior stuff, and this is where we jump into the really cool stuff. So here we go. Next we have the full frame. So what they've done is they've improved the rigidity of the frame itself. So people have complained before in the past that they received machines with bent bed screws on arrival. The 3 positioning screws to lock the bed in place for when it's travel shipping. They've also had problems where the aluminium frame itself has been out of alignment, causing the actual belt itself on the Core XY system to be somewhat limited and not travel across its linear railed shaft as smoothly as what it should, because the frame is out of alignment. They've now fixed that with better extrusion frame and a better block system, stabilizing the frame actual rigidity, as well as also making the structure a lot smoother, and the actual ability for the components of the frame to actually join together a lot more seamlessly. So the engineers have really worked hard on getting this K1C to be a lot more true in its dimensions, to make it more accurate in its ability to be more aligned and more square to its volume, and that in its actual fact will actually make the printer have less vibration, because the actual frame being more true and more square, and will also allow the actual the mounting points of the linear rails where the bearing seats in on the rails to actually travel a lot more seamlessly, being that the frame itself and the rails will sit more true. So I think that's a really good idea. And yeah, basically it's a really good option. Also, the other thing is that the panels themselves can actually be removed, which we know you can remove them on the actual K1 and Speedy and K1 Max. But one thing you can actually do with the K1C Carbon is, this is what people don't know, is you can actually remove the, you can actually remove the back system and the 2 side panels, and actually swap them out. So if you really wanted to, you could actually mount, because of the way the system is, you could actually mount tempered glass to the side panels itself, and make up, you know, actual acrylic backplate, so that you can have a better visual overview of the internals when looking at the machine, which would make a great concept for not only custom panels, but also being able to visually see your print from, you know, almost a 360 degree parameter with the door closed and all the paneling on, which is a nice touch. I think, you know, they've gone above and beyond from that point of view. You know, so, you know, having transparent material on 4 sides, pretty cool. So, all right, next one. Here we go. That was a frame. Next one is the Hotend. So what they've done is they've made it so that with the K1C, so that it actually has the ability to print these new types of materials, which I'll go into side. All right, so what we're looking at is, not only is it an all-in-one nozzle and heat break, whereas before you would have the nozzle itself would go into the ceramic core heat break, and then it would then go through into another, copper or nickel plated shaft or heat barrel, and then go into the heat sink itself to dissipate the heat after it passed through the extruder. And then, so what that actually did was it restricted the ability for the filament to heat up before it got down towards the top end of the actual volcano style longer Hotend. So by doing this and including an all-in-one heat break barrel with the nozzle, what that's actually done is it means that the actual filament, especially more high-end exquisite filaments like PC, nylon, polypropylene, carbon fiber, not just PLA and PETG, but PA6 and PA12 and HIPS and all these other exotic sort of filaments that not everyone prints, but having the ability to do that, well, what that'll actually do is make it so that, one, the filament feeds through at a faster rate, so therefore you get a better flow rate, you get a faster flow rate, you also get a more even extrusion rate out of the nozzle, and you also get the ability to have the filament itself be at a more steady temperature feeding through from the heat extruder, because it pulls through at a higher temperature, melting down faster, and that in fact will mean that you'll be able to have less under extrusion through higher speed printing. So although the K1 Speedy and the K1 Max had the ability to print up to 500 to 600 millimeters a sec, it was never advised, because obviously it can do it, but you'd be looking at doing basic thin walled prints to actually keep the quality up, whereas the recommended speed for the K1 Speedy and the K1 Max directly from Creality themselves is at most 300 millimeters a sec. If you're like me and many other people who have been using the K1 series now for a good 6 months, most of us know that if we want quality prints, 200 is probably a fair assumption on approximate speeds that you can do with models and things, but with this system, with the new all-in-one barrel nozzle heat break system, even with standard PLA, PETG, and those sort of materials, even ASA and ABS, you're going to find you're going to have better quality prints, a higher flow rate per millimeter squared per second, which is awesome, and that's going to equal better quality prints, less under and over extrusion depending on what percentages and what. So that's awesome. All right, that was a mouthful. I know. Anyway, we've got more. Let's do it. Let's keep going. Next. All right, this is the breakdown on the nozzle. So as you can see, you've got the heat brakes made out of titanium, alloy, and copper. You've got a hardened steel nozzle. You've got a copper alloy external, and then you've basically got titanium alloy and then copper alloy again, all the way through, right through to the whole heat block or heat sink, and that's going to make for faster extrusion. Forget about Volcano series nozzles. This is not a Volcano series nozzle. This is above and beyond that. This is going to make the flow rates, as you can see also, if you look at the top of the copper alloy heat break barrel, it's an expanded barrel at the top, and it's also an expanded barrel section at the bottom, and what that's doing is allowing for the filament, as it's heated, to build up a pressurized amount of liquefied filament, and makes it easier for it to pass through the narrow passage of the actual core of the actual barrel and nozzle itself, and then also not be so pressurized at the bottom of the nozzle end as well, which is really good, because that way you don't get issues where you get obviously clogged nozzles, which I've never had myself, but you don't have issues where you get back pressure into the nozzle by increasing your flow rate and having too much back pressure, because the filament hasn't had enough time to heat up sufficiently enough at a high speed to then extrude out, and then therefore it causes back pressure. And those of us who've experienced that, probably more so with other generation printers that didn't have the longer barrel style nozzles, like the S1 Pros and those and the CR10 Smarts and that, would have experienced those big bubblegum problems we had on the old heat block. So yeah, that's a thing of a past with these machines. That's awesome. All right, moving along. I'm not sure what's next. I'll just have a quick squiz here. I know I've got it lined up. All right, here we go. So now we're getting to the technical stuff. So big one. This is the new design of the internal structure of of the printing machine. So what they've done here is they have improved the fluidity of the Core XY motion process. So they've basically, how would you say it? They've fine-tuned the belt system and the tensioning system through the mounting hardware and the actual core sleeves they've used for the actual brackets that mount on the linear rod rail. They've also improved the actual brackets themselves that stabilize the dual axis Z height rods, which is awesome, which means in actual fact, depending on the stepper motor speeds, you could generally increase your I suppose Z-hop speed in a certain way, I suppose you could say. They've also improved the positioning of the mechanism that the chain itself with the cabling routes through to hot extruder, not the extruder, the actual hot end extrusion system. They've updated, one thing I will tell you in advance, which we'll get to in a second, the Hummingbird extruder that they've released 3 times. We know about the early editions where they had the chrome plated one, then they had the spring mechanism problem, and then they updated it again. The new one itself, which I suppose you could turn around and say is the version 4, is the same type of extrusion system. I did have my other one here, but I've it. But basically what they've done is they've incorporated a spring tension system, very similar to the tensioning system in the original all-metal Sprite extruder, so that the actual gear mechanism in the actual gearing of the 2 bearings that feed the filament through can have an automatic spring tension system that allows for continuous, constant, even pressure on the actual filament as it passes through its filament bearing rollers, which I think is awesome. Because that's going to make extrusion with the all I suppose full length barrel hot end nozzle. That improvement with that extruder improvement is going to make the feed rate not only more fluid, heat up faster, but it's also going to be able to match the feed rate speeds of the better hot end barrel nozzle one-piece system, which is enabling better flow rates, but it's also going to make it so that there's even less likely of a chance you get under extrusion or over extrusion, because the simple fact is that you're no longer relying on two semi-tension pulleys that are just relying off gear mechanisms just to clamp down and push it through, where now there actually is a spring inside the extruding Hummingbird system that will actually apply the correct tension to the feeding gear wheels to make sure that the filament is feeded through at the optimal pressure, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Sorry, cheers, I'll just have a quick. So yeah, once again, that is a really big improvement. I think it's a great idea, a great concept. Now, a lot of people don't know about these sort of things. Like I said, I've had this information for 2 weeks. I've been fine-tuning the information as the information has been coming to head, I've been receiving new updates about the improvement as the design team at Creality, the engineers have been tweaking and modifying and testing, and they're still modifying and tweaking and testing. So even the one they've got on display now, the Expo, isn't the final product. So I wouldn't say anything's going to change, but they're still tweaking certain things, firmware and all this. So, but yeah, moving anyway along, the extruder system's way better, better flow rates, more equalized pressure on the filament. Obviously, because it's going to be printing once again a more high-end and more advanced filaments, it needs a more equalized pressure on the rollers and gears to actually feed the filament. Because of the fact that the different filaments will, in fact, impact on the pressure build up on the extrusion system. So I think that's awesome. I can see a lot of people swapping out their K1 Speedies and K1 Maxes and updating to that newer Hummingbird extruder, which, I don't have a problem with mine. I've got the new one, but, but it could be, if it does come out, when it does come out, which is, I can't actually tell you when. That's the one thing I'm not going to tell you is when it's going to be released. But I will tell you that it's not far away. So I'm going to tell you, I don't want to ruin the surprise here, because I'm actually going to be getting one myself. I'm not sponsored by Creality. I don't have a non-disclosure agreement, but because of my background in history and knowledge with design, engineering, and mechanics, and so on, amongst other things, I get along well with people who are in the industry, and I can tell you to a certain degree that it's going to be, let's just say, maybe if you're lucky, approximately somewhere in the realm of the first 2 weeks of February, if not maybe the last. I can't say. Sorry, I can't say. Could be sooner. No, I won't say. I'm not going to say anything. I'll just leave it at that, because you guys will find out when I find out, and I'm going to be the first ones to find out. So, yeah, I'm really pumped. All right, so back to this. So the Core XY motion is being improved. Better bearing sleeves, a better extruder. It's got a spring-loaded filament mechanism, making the extrusion increased, better filament pressure. The cabling routing system on the chain guide has been improved as well, which is awesome, because we all know that we've had to adjust that. They've also increased the length of the PTFE tubing that goes in from the chain link through to the actual extrusion system itself, because in the previous versions of the K1 Speedy and the K1 Max, that was actually a little bit short and sometimes would catch and lift the chain link clips off. So that's been improved as well. They've also looked at the gearing and the bearings and improved those as well with the sleeves and the tensioning springs as well. So what that's in fact done is it's made the whole motion, as anyone knows with the K1 Speed and K1 Max, the movement on the, I would say, the forward and back motion of the x-axis is always a little bit more rigid than, the y-axis is always a little bit more fluid than the x-axis of going left to right. Seems to be more rigid because it's passing through the motors on the extrusion system, and that's been improved as well, so that it frees up more and becomes more fluid. So what it actually means in a nutshell, dragging this out a little bit, is instead of actually having a machine that can go up to 600 millimeters a second with a maximum acceleration of 20,000 millimeters squared, is that it actually will be able to print, not, I wouldn't say, at 600, awesome quality, but instead of being able to print, nice quality at 150, 200, 250, it's going to be able to print very well at really good quality at 300 millimeters a second, and I've been told that even 4 to 450 millimeters a second. So that's pretty impressive. That blows a lot of, unless you're talking Delta printers, FL Sun's T1, S1, they're yet to come out and be proven with their speed, so on, although they're completely different designs. That's pretty impressive. It's one thing to have a max printing speed, but it's another thing to have it usable and actually have it the usability of that speed achieve great print quality. So, which is doesn't happen, it's very rare. So have a recommended 300 millimeters a second, and I've been told by one of the respected designers that it can quite comfortably do 400, somewhat 450 depending on the model, is pretty impressive. So, all right, next one, here we go. So what it shows here is basically what we've talked about before. So we have, because of the all-included nozzle, we still have a ceramic coated hot end, but now we have the fast changeable or swappable hot end, which is awesome. The heating itself, as it says, the material basically extruding out of the hot end nozzle melts at a faster rate and improves smooth and they say silkiness of the production, but basically in a more English terminology, it basically means that the temperature rate that it extrudes out the nozzle will be a more equalized temperature at melted point, rather than almost cooling before it even comes out the end of the nozzle, because it's already past the heat section as it's coming out, whereas now it will be at the full temperature that it's supposed to be rather than before. So things like the dreaded, silk that a lot of people say. I know I watched an episode on Nathan Builds Robots, and he was like, I hate silk, I can't stand it, get rid of it. But yeah, silk, I know, I sometimes will agree with you on that one, but no, like, to be honest, it will make things like printing silk and things a lot better. Not just that, being a machine that's not just designed for all these extravagant materials, but even the basic materials like printing silk or, PETG silk, for instance. Believe it or not, anyone who's printed PETG silk, it's actually a very hard material to get very good, how would I say, very good layer lines as far as, look and presentation on the details without seeing the line separation and, seams and, just errors in the print quality, because it's so, PETG itself is obviously a lot different to, PLA as such, that it doesn't print as well as far as the quality, surface quality, let alone adding silk to it. So this is going to make a game changer for that. The other thing is too, they've improved the fans. So the fans, I think on the K1's pretty good as it is, but they've improved them again as well. So what they've done is they've actually, I don't know how they've done it. I'm not sure yet. I haven't looked into it. But basically what they've done is they've improved the fan ability on the bearings on the brushless fan for it to have more of a dynamic ability to not only spin at a higher rate, but also be more balanced. So what that does is create, once again, less turbulence on the airflow that's coming out, that's going to be cooling the filament and part cooling. So that's going to make the layering of especially inner and outer walls a lot more I suppose smoother, a lot better quality, because they're going to be able to hold their shape. That combined with the extruder system, equalized pressure, the all-inclusive barrel hotend, the constant heat dissipation right to the tip of the nozzle, the increased balance and the balance and the balance of the air flow itself with less vibration, linear movement, I think is going to, even if you weren't going to print, exotic materials, I say exotic, but, most people don't usually print a lot of nylon and PA6, PA12 and HIP, all this sort of stuff. And PC and things. So, but even just as a normal printer to print other materials, it's going to make a big impact on the ability to print way better quality. So, resin printers, look out. I know resin printers produce some pretty great quality prints, but I think this is going to be a game changer as well. So that's really, really good thing as well. There's also they've also changed the cavity on the auxiliary fan and the shape of the fan shroud inside the actual shroud itself to allow a more direct path of airflow to the part cooling. So that's pretty cool. So, all right. I know I'm waffling on a little bit here, but there's so much to get through. I've got probably more information than most, if not any. Don't ask me how, can't tell you that one, but yeah, I've got a lot. So let's go to the next one. So, here we go. So this one here shows about the reduction in the top left-hand side. So we're looking over here. Can't tell you how they've done it just yet, but I think what they've done is they've changed the material that they've used for the actual, not sure if it's rubber or what type of material it is, silicone, rubber, or but the actual footing covers that go over the top of the stops on the base of the frame have been improved to reduce the vibration. So I think that's really good. One of the big things I like is that nozzle. So the nozzle wiping, there you go. So it's a silicone strip with what looks like a tooth, suppose a grid block, which the nozzle basically goes, if you look at it from a line perspective, the nozzle passes through each layer line of block silicon, and it's high temperature silicon obviously, so wear resistant, so it's going to last a very, very long time. Now I'm not exactly sure, actually this is one thing a person asked me when I was talking to one of the rep Creality about this, was whether or not this is going to be something that's going to have to be added to other bed sheets if people buy other PEI bed material sheets like PEO and PET and all these other sort of aftermarket bed sheets, whether or not that's going to have them on there, and whether or not they're proposed aftermarket bed sheet gonna have, you know, one thing to probably be careful of is to make sure that they're using a high, but I'll probably stick with the Creality just to be on the safe side. Yeah, so, but I think that's a really good idea. So it's going to prevent a lot of people complaining about their beds getting scratched. Yeah, so I think that's a really good option. The other thing they've done too is they've improved the glass door. We've all seen the videos where people have had either their machines arrived and they've been like shattered glass, or they've had them explode, and we've seen videos on it. It's not good. Luckily enough, I haven't had it happen. What they've done is they've improved the glass, so they've made it so it's no longer shatterproof glass. I think it's more like a candy glass, I suppose you could say. And yes, it could still break just like any glass. It's not bulletproof glass, let's straight to the point on that one, but they have improved the shear resistance for it to actually crack and shatter, which I think is a really good improvement. I think they've taken what the community have said. Pretty much, I think from what I can tell, they've really, you know, they did mention, I'm not sure if a lot of people are familiar with the Creality forums and Creality pages through Facebook and other places, social media, but they did mention they were really trying to focus on customer service, improving quality control. And I mean, even with the V3, Ender 3 V3 KE that I have, my K1 Mac, the version 3 of it, you know, their quality customer support has been massively improved, and their core focus has been to improve the customers' how would you say, judgment on Creality's ability to provide better customer care, and especially aftermarket and after sales support and warranty support, which I think is massively important. And I'd give them a bit of a clap for that one, because I mean, and I genuinely mean that wasn't being sarcastic, because I think they've really they are working very hard behind, even if you don't think they are, they're working very hard. They have invested a lot of resource, invested a lot of money and a lot of new people into their business model to improve aftermarket sales support, which I think is fantastic for us. So they're definitely listening to us. So all the people who are complaining, who are, you know, giving Creality a bit of a hard time, they have been listening, they are taking notes. So I think that's great. So there you go. So we've got some improved shock absorber footing. We've got a silicon high temperature nozzle strip for wiping out and cleaning our nozzles, which is awesome. And also we've got explosive proof glass, which doesn't shatter, cause injury, and is less likely to break under vibration. And they're going to, I've also been told that they're also trying to improve their shipping, not just necessarily how it's being packaged, but the shipping suppliers they're using to make sure that they don't have with damaged printers out. Like I said before, they've reinforced the chain as well. So as mentioned before, a lot of people had issues, including myself actually, where the PTFE tubing wasn't, it was a bit short, and what would happen was when it would move, when it would move in an x-axis motion left to right, and y, you know, front and back in the y axis, you would find that especially moving to the far left, the chain would bury itself into the aluminum frame area, and the actual PTFE tubing, the filament tubing, would literally sort of try to pull away from the chain, and that caused the tubing itself to have a longer bend through this area here, and more of a 90-degree angle, causing under extrusion some people, and also breakages of filament. So that was addressed through some people coming up with some design, which enabled them to put on top of the Hummingbird extruder to prevent that from PTFE tubing from being bent too much. But that's no longer an issue now, because what they've done is not only they increased the length of the PTFE tubing for the filament, but they've also routed the cable chain. So that is a big improvement as well. So you think about all these little things that they've improved as far as the actual mechanism for feeding the filament from the extruder to the hot end, to the barrel, to the dynamics of the fan balance, you know, the chain link system, the PTFE tubing, the turbulence balance of the airflow side fan, accessory blower fan. Like they've done it. And you know, the nozzle cleaning, reduced vibration, silicon footing pads. It's if you can turn around and tell me from what I've just said, and there's other things that I'm about to go through that they've done on top of this as well to further improve the capability, not just the capabilities, but further improve the quality of of the product itself to make it more of a more, you know, high end and structurally sound, quality controlled product. You know, just from those things I've shown and talked about, you know, if you know, whether you're a Bamboo Labs guy or you're a Quill, whatever you are, you're Elegoo, or you know, it's one of those things, Sovals, whatever, you know, they've really focused on improving the actual quality of the machine, which I think is really great. And they haven't done it to, you know, step up to be Bamboo Labs. That's not who Creality are. You know, they're doing that because they want to improve the relationship between the customer, the end user, from the beginner who knows nothing to the advanced professional. And why do they want to do that? Well, it's quite simple. They want to grow as a business to become more professional, and so that people can actually see Creality's product moving forward as a product that they know that if they are going to spend the money on, that they're going to get a quality product. Not to say they haven't produced quality products in the past. I myself have multiple printers. My first printer, like many, was an Ender 3 Pro. My second printer was a big jump up. I bought a Creality CR10 Smart Pro, which I upgraded heavily, which can now do 500 millimeters a second, even though it's only supposed to 50. I've got a video coming out about that one, but you know, that was one of the best quality printers they did. But they have to make shortcuts on some printers, because you know, when you're building beginner based printers like the Ender 3 V3 SE, you can't release a printer for $200, $220 and not have high end features. So with this K1C carbon, yes, it will be more than the K1 Speedy, but the quality will be exceptional. So that's that. All right, so next one, here we go. So what do we got next? So next one's an extension of that. So here's a little sneak peek. There you go. So that explains it itself. If you look at the bottom right hand corner, it says there that the Creality package will provide and support side loading rack, exclamation marks, or not exclamation marks, but brackets, 30 model files provided. So to make intuitive changes for materials. So I don't know if you can see this right now, but one of the STL files that they've printed and mounted to the side of that K1C carbon is in fact a dual barrel roller system. So I don't know if they're preparing for an AMS style system, but I can tell you, as a bit of an insider, how would I say, can't give too much away. I don't have an NDA, so I don't really care. I'll give everything away if I can. But I don't believe in NDAs. But that said, I will tell you that if you've seen my other video, Co-Print, Future of 3D Printing, if you haven't seen that, go and check it out on my channel. It's a multi-filament system. Creality are working on a multi-filament system. Now, before you turn around and say, oh yeah, of course they are, they're going to copy the AM Bamboo Labs, I can tell you now that it will be nothing like the AM Bamboo Labs. It will be so far from the system that Bamboo Labs uses that won't even resemble anything like. And to be honest, I wouldn't want it because, you know, whether you like it or not, with purge, even if you have purge blocks and things like that, when changing filament, you know, through the so-called poop chute that Bamboo have, you know, they want to create their own multi-color filament system, and I can tell you that they're looking at doing something along those lines towards the end of 2024. But the big one is that they have currently just literally this week, be it what date are we now? The 11th of January. So basically, they've now been in talks with Co-Print for their chroma set, and they are collaborating with Co-Print to enable Co-Print to be utilized on pretty much 90% of all of Creality's printers, and that is fantastic. I am a Co-Print endorsed Kickstarter and Dorsey. I have a Co-Print system on order, which I will probably be one of the first to get. I've been working close Co-Print as well, so keep an eye out for that. That's getting released to the general public in, I think, the second third week of March, but hopefully I should receive something at around February, which will be awesome. But yeah, like I said, Co-Print team have been in talks with Creality China this week in relation to what they can do to integrate their systems with the new design Creality's prints coming out with, like the new Ender 3 series, the K1C with obviously bringing out, and I can't tell you because I don't know the full spec. I would if I knew the spec, but there's a new line of coming out from Creality as well that are gonna be fantastic. That it's going to change the game. So really exciting stuff. One big thing to note as well is that on top of the Ender 3 V3 KE, we'll have root access as of, can't give you the exact time, but I can give you a rough day, and that would be, look at my calendar here, 2 seconds. Let's just say, I can tell you that we're looking at around anywhere between January the 15th to the January the 19th. There'll be root access release for the Ender 3 V3 KE, which is awesome news. And also, yeah, so that's that. Co-Print have been in China this week for 2 weeks actually, and this week they've been collaborating with Creality, which is awesome. And also they've been there because Co-Print's open source, and they have a similar pad system, Sonic Pad, and their system also works with the Sonic Pad, so that's also. Anyway, back to the K1C. One of the big things they've done, I just want to say also, including up to 30, whether it's 25, 20 or 35, to be honest, you know, to have these, professionally designed and engineered STL files that will also be obviously not just designed, but coded and designed really well. I mean, we all know that when you get a Creality printer in the last 2 years, that all the prints that come with the files on the USB, just like the high-speed Benchy, that, you know, that the settings that they apply to enable those prints to come out, the quality to have the quality they do is fantastic. So I can only imagine that the print files that are going to come either preloaded. There's going to be 3 options, I'm pretty sure, I've been told. It's either going to be preloaded onto the USB, but that would be dependent on the size of the STL files, because I do know some of them are quite large. The other option is it will be a download option, so that when you register your K1C, you can then download the STL files through Creality Cloud or the app or online directly. And also the other option is that will be included on the already pre-loaded onto the machine, but I'm pretty sure it'll be the first 2, so I think it's awesome. Anyway, last one thing I'm going to mention on this slideshow before we move on to the other one, we're probably, I would say about 70% of the way through, is they've improved the dampening of the door. So a lot of vibration that we've been getting from the K1 Speedy and K1 Max is the door itself gets a lot of vibration through the actual mounting bracket at the bottom and the top, but most of the bottom, because that's where a lot of the weight from the glass door is on that corner. So what they've done is they've changed the pivot block that's inserted into the bottom corner, and they've also increased the dampening. They put a damp pad and adhesive in between the layering of the clamp system on the actual tempered shatterproof glass. So that in actual fact makes it so that when the door is not only open, closes, especially closed, printing at high speed, you're not going to have that buzzing sound that some people have experienced when they're printing, which is really good. And it's less likely, the way that the hinge has been improved, it's less likely for the hinge to, or the door itself, to actually sort of open and swing out past its natural range of movement, sort of, you know, so that do open the door, that you accidentally press it too much and snap it off the hinge, which people have done. I mean, obviously you can print there's files you can print to make it a 270 degree hinge, which is something that a lot of people have done, but I think that's just another further as well. So that's all right. Next one, here we go. What have we got? All right, so cheers for the V, I needed that. All right, so here we go. Bit more of a few things that we've got. So obviously, you know, some people think it's not great. Some people think it's great. LiDAR, AI camera, all that sort of stuff. I can tell you, obviously it says there, as we discussed before, you've got the, as they say, ultra stable extrusion system. We talked about that before. The all-inclusive heat break barrel. They've, you know, increased the dynamics of the cooling fan, turbulence pressure, all that sort of stuff. The nozzle is really easy to swap out. No more high temperature filament tubing, no separate heat break from the heat sink, which makes it a lot faster to swap your nozzles out. I can also tell you, I don't have one on hand, but I can also tell you the actual ceramic hot end itself, where the two wires connect to the heat sensor PCB board, which is behind the fan shroud, have been improved so that there's no longer those copper wires that were susceptible to break off, and they are now braided. So they are braided, they're heat treated, and they are also braided, and the actual connection block itself has also been improved as well, so that that's less susceptible to break as well, because I know some problems. And by insulating that as well, that also improves the conductivity of the sensor itself, feeding the temperature sensor information to back and from the actual ceramic hot end and to back to the PCB board. So that's good too. The AI camera. So some people have claimed, you know, I hate to say it, but there are some negative people out there. I don't know why, but there are certain areas of things with Creality, but they have improved the AI functionality of the camera once again. So you'll notice in the latest firmware update, they incorporated what they call professional option, so that what it did is it increased the sensory function to pick up finer details through the lens. So with the firmware, they were able to optimize the ability for the camera focus to identify more accurately if the layer or if there was any issues during a print, to identify to then pause or stop the print to prevent errors in the print and file. Is awesome. I think that's great. And obviously they've improved a few other features with the lighter, which I'll go into in a minute. And then obviously, as you can see, they've just got as far as the consumables with the carbon fiber and so on. So that's that one. And moving right along, what have we got? Oh, we're getting close. All right, so there's actually, next one's a big feature. So this one here, this one's not the best image quality, but it's the best I could get. So one of the new features they've got with the Creality Print software is with the camera, it's got the ability to pick up, if you're printing multiple parts, it can actually identify if one of the components is either printing abnormally due to fluctuations in either bed temperature for some reason, or maybe sure that, you know, the lid might be off on the top. I know some people have removed the glass door because they've been afraid to break. Obviously with the carbon, you don't do that. You want to be having a closed system just like ASA and ABS. But it has the ability when printing multiple components that it will identify if one of the prints has excessive stringing, or it has the actual print quality of what it knows from the G code as to what it's supposed to be printing, that it's not uniformed with the other components that are on the bed. It'll actually notify you either via phone notification and on screen. If you have your printer sync with notifications from the Creality app, whether you like the Creality app or not. I think apart from the slicing software on it, which is a little bit limited, I think the app's great. But having notification on that on your phone means that if you've got, like, see there, you know, 9 different print cog wheels on the print bed, and one of them for some reason has an issue where possibly, you know, it shifts off the bed from adhesion issues, or, you know, something else happens, it will automatically stop, pause, print, and it won't re-engage until you allow it to by visually seeing it through the camera on your phone through the Creality app, even when you're not home or at the office or business, wherever you are. And you can actually see what the issue is, whether it's a minor issue that you're overly fussed about, or whether it's a major issue, and then you can cancel that print out. So not only can you stop the print, but you can also cancel that individual print. So it'll give you a grid reference, and it'll say, this is the print, this is the problem, there is an error depicted this print out of the prints that are on the bed. Would you like to cancel print out, continue, or would you like to cancel the whole print? Now, I think that's pretty pretty good feature to have. You know, one of the things I a lot of times have trouble with printing is printing multiple components, especially components that are not uniform, that are different component shape. You know, printing, like I do a lot of printing for workshop components and prototype parts for motorcycles, and sometimes I've got to be very careful with printing certain parts, you know, say 3 or 4 smaller components at once, and you know, I find that I try not to do that too much because you know, obviously with the software and the detection a bit limited, that sometimes you can have the printer you know, whether it increases stringings going from a part that has an extreme amount of detail and curves and bridges and overhang, to another part that's a small flat piece that's maybe a bracket, to another piece that may be a bearing or a cover plate for something, and that can cause variation, you know, the movement act print, and that can cause errors. But to have this feature to enable to not only identify if there's an issue with the print, but also basically have the option to select to cancel that individual component and then continue printing the rest, or completely cancel the whole print, I think it's an awesome. So there you go. There's a new one for you as well. So as you can tell, they really have that. This is not just another version. I wouldn't even say, oh, this is, you know, for anyone out there who watches this video, I hope you do. And you know, for anyone out there who says, oh, you know, K1C carbon, well, K1 Max to K1 Speedy can already print carbon fiber, blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean, I'm not trying to be negative, you know, but to be honest, this is a whole game changer. The features that they've implemented on this system are way above and beyond just an upgrade on the original K1 series. This is not a version 2 or, you know, generation 2 K1 Speedy or K1 Max. This is completely not that at all. This is a complete overhaul of the whole system, plus a massive improvement. Obviously, there may be some issues starting off, but they'll be corrected, if any, pretty promptly, I'd say. Told. So that's that one. I think that's a pretty impressive feature. So next we've got the extraction fan, the rear extraction fan, which I spoke about earlier. So basically, they've increased the purification. Instead of just having a carbon foam pad, what they've done is they've actually incorporated, and a lot of people have said in the past, oh, you know, how does that filter out of the back, and so on, through different forums, and they've, to believe it or not, Creality have listened. They've heard basically what people have said, and they've corrected it. And what they've done is they've incorporated a filtration block that consists of micro pods that have, or bags, I suppose you could say, that effectively have activated carbon and charcoal materials inside the bags themselves, and there is multiple micro bags inside the actual filtration block that then how would you say, as the extraction fan pushes the fume out of the rear ventilation system exhaust of the printer, it passes through those pods and filters, I wouldn't say all of the toxins, but a large quantity of toxic airborne fume chemical that nonetheless wouldn't be filtered out by just a standard carbon or charcoal filter, which is, I think, another thing that they've stepped up to and realized and done as well. Obviously, you know, if you're going to be printing, you know, toxic materials, it's always better to have a duct mounted to it with an extraction where it's not going to be an enclosed area. But just to have this, I think, is a big improvement itself, you know. So I think that's a great idea. And those pads will be something that are apparently long-lasting. They're not something that has to be changed, you know, once a month. From what I've researched with similar extraction filter bag that filter, say, fume or certain toxicity fume, they generally are good for around 6 to 8 months of continuous printing before then, which I think, what else have we got here? Once again, it goes on about the silent mode. So the silent mode itself is also applicable to the extraction fan, not accessory side fan and the printer fan, but also extraction well. So, you know, you're sitting there and you've got your printer inside. Not all of us have a dedicated, you know, insulated garage, or a room that has, perfect heat cooling, or, it can be enclosed. Some of us have a printer next to our computer that's not right near our lounge room or living room, so noise can be an issue. So to put it into silent mode, and not hear it whining its head off, and all the blower fans churning along, I think is a great well. So that's as well. And for people like me who live in Melbourne, Australia, which is almost pretty much, apart from Tasmania and Antarctica, it's pretty much the bottom of the world. In Melbourne, Australia, we have 4 seasons in one day, which is horrible for 3D filament printing, because we constantly have to use dryers, vacuum bags. It's horrendous to try and keep our film dry. So yeah, that's good. All right, next one. This one, sorry about the photo again. It's a screenshot photo from an email I got from one of the designers. Basically just goes into detail once again, talking about how the carbon fiber and the extravagant filaments printed, as well as your standard filaments like PLA carbon fiber and PET carbon fiber. Obviously the K1 max speed you can do as well, but this will obviously do better. You'll also notice on the right hand side, you'll see that just here that the panels themselves are yellow. Now that may look like it's just a color filter they've put on there, but basically from what I've heard is that can change the paneling, and you can insulate the actual acrylic as well. The closed, they've also made sure that the door itself and all the top roofing panels, I can't go into any information as far as they're going to have a K1C max. I'm sure they probably will see that as probably a definite, but they've made it so that even the actual house contained top lid is more secure and insulated, which obviously means better stability for the chamber temperature for printing, and that it also includes a PEI flexi plate and obviously a 300 plus Hotend hardened steel nozzle that can handle various well. So that's pretty much that. What do we got next? We're finally here. We're nearly at the really important nitty gritty. This is just a quick photo of basically what it would be like if you had a nice fancy workshop in every 3D hobbyist enthusiast dream. We would love to have our own custom, I suppose, designer factory, I suppose you'd say, printing farm, where we could have floor to ceiling K1 carbons. I mean, that would be insane. But yeah, this just goes in to show you that you can have unlimited amount of K series printers and control them all. What else have we got? All right, so this is where we start to get nitty gritty. First off, I'm going to throw this picture at you. Skip this one. So you've probably seen the photo, this one here, because we've already been through it. And you may or may not have seen this one. Now, I was going to release a photo, a bit of Mesh one, a few weeks ago as well, but I was trying to do the right thing by one of the reps who hadn't released it for pre-order yet, so I held off on that. But that's the new Pi dual filament spool dryer. I think you can pre-order it now from some sites, or about Australia you can't. I know the China one you can, Europe, AliExpress you can, from China store they have on that website. I'm not sure about Creality US. It does retail for what it works out to be in US dollars, but it does retail for now. It does retail in Australian dollars for $130 currently now, and bad to boom. All right, so yeah, basically, it's $120 to $130 Australian, and then I don't know what that is exactly. I'd probably be about $7 US or $85 US or thereabout. So yeah, it is. So you're looking at $85-$90 US dollar for the dual filament system, which I think is actually really good. Considering the materials it does. It has a semi-AI functionality where it automatically will have the independent settings for every different type of filament, so you don't have to randomly guess how long you have to run the filament dryer for. So that's a really cool feature. It also has a silent mode, but you could call it a slow mode, not in a bad way, but I mean, what it means is basically instead of having it run at a full capacity, and obviously using a certain amount of wattage in power to drive it over a period of time for each different type of material, you can run it at a slightly lower temperature, at a lower fan, so that it's less power. Say for instance you wanted to use it and dry something overnight, but you didn't want to run it full blast, a heap of power, and have it running hot all night, whether it's for safe power consumption, that's as well as cool. All right, I do have some information on that, but that's going to be in a separate video. The next one we're going to jump into is, should I do it? Should I not do it? Let's go. Boom. There we are. That's what we've been waiting for. So here it is, guys. This is the full spec of the K1C carbon in full detail. So we have everything I've talked about. Plus, we have the build volume, Core XY, we have Creality OS Eco, we have the improved air filter, carbon pod filtration system, we have a professional enhanced firmware AI system. We have the calibration feature has been improved. It hasn't been released yet, but I can tell you the LiDAR that you can get added to the K1C has been improved substantially. So that's a really good positive. So the first layer adhesion will be better. The bed mesh is supposed to be improved. I think within 0.0015 improvement across the bed. So that's pretty impressive. So I'd say that you're going to be going back to a bed mesh of plus or minus maybe 0.004, which is probably as close as you're going to get for a PEI sheet outside of glass. So that's impressive. All right, so moving along, we've got a 600mm top speed. We've got an enhanced all-enclosed hot-end hardened steel nozzle that can print high temperature, whereas PA carbon fiber, ASA, nylon polycarbonate, HIP, you name it, it can do it. 220 to 250mm build volume. Product dimensions 355, 355 by 482. So it's coming in around the same size. Speedy. Net weight's 12.4 kilos. Printing speed with the Hyper PLA is max speed of 600mm a second. Don't know why you'd want to print at that speed, unless you're printing a flat box sheet of some kind, but that's pretty crazy. Acceleration's 20,000. The accuracy 100 plus or minus 0.1, which is quite good. Layer height of 0.1 to 0.35, so that's really good. So to have a layer height of 0. Impressive. Once again, all metal direct drive extruder. With the extruder, one thing I didn't mention too is on the gearing of the extruding system, on the side where the two feeding wheels with the pressurized spring mechanism in the new version 4, I would say, Hummingbird extruder, the gearing above that is actually no longer a polypro ASA, I'm not sure what type of plastic material it was, but it is now a stainless gear, which is another improvement they've put onto it as well. It's awesome. The nozzles can be swapped out from 0.4 to 0.6 and 0.8, which is good. 300 degrees Celsius nozzle temperature. I have confirmed that it's actually 320, and the heat bed says 100, but that can actually go up to 130. Pretty sure the maximum is 130. I've been informed. It may change, but I don't think it will because they're not bed design release. So nozzle temperature is actually 2300, and the heated bed 30. It comes with a PEI Flexi build plate. I don't think it's textured. Standard PEI Flex build plate. It has the hands-free auto leveling like Speedy in the Mac. USB drive and Wi-Fi. 4.3-inch color touchscreen. It has the AI camera, which has been improved. The LiDAR is optional. Power loss recovery, same. Filament runout sensor. Input shaping has been improved. I know a lot of people who have gone down the route of root access have done that specifically for the improvement in input shaping, as I know that the X and Y axis of the input shape was matched the same, even though I'm not quite sure, don't quote me on this, but one of the two wasn't actually measured. It was just basically calibrated to be the same. So that's that. They've improved that. It has sleep mode, which is awesome, which I don't think my K1 Max has. I know it has this timeout function screen, but it doesn't actually shut down. There's no option for you to press standby or sleep on screen on the printer, which I think is awesome, because I don't know about you, to have to constantly turn it on and off all the time and wait for it to load. You know, it doesn't take a long time, but it's annoying. Supported filaments, here we go. So we've got ABS, PLA, PETG, PET, PET, TPU, PA, ASA, PC, PLACF, PACF, PETCF. There are a couple other supportive filaments in there as well. I can't really say what they are yet because they're still untested. So that's that, but I can assure you there's probably another 4 on top of that. File formats G-code, and obviously support Creality Print and Cura 5.0 and later, which is actually quite good because previously the K1 didn't export Cura straight out of the box. So that's awesome. And also that the K1C, just like the K1 Speedy and K1 Mac, will have root access, and it won't have root access straight away, but I can tell you that they are looking at doing the root access and open source for the K1C very quick, so it's not going to be like 6 months down the line. They have come to realize that, just like they are releasing the KE root access in the coming week, that it is actually a benefit for not just Creality but the community as well, to have the ability to print more remotely outside of just the Creality application and Creality Print, because although they do encourage people to Creality Print, they do understand that Creality Print still an ongoing software that they're still developing, and that obviously there are other slices out there that have other unique features which can improve quality of some of the print that Creality Print doesn't have in its feature list, possibly because of the reason that it was open source and had root access, and that's why now they're moving forward more rapidly with supporting that. So that's a great thing as well. The actual process of root access as well now is going to be a lot more seamless, apparently, from what I've been told. I know that with the K1 previous series, Speedy and Max, it's a bit of an issue. People have had problems. Some people have bricked their machine. Some people have had issues where they've had bed leveling issues, Z offset issues, just erratic behavior in general with the configuration process, because it's just very finicky. It's not something that, you know, the entry level beginner or even suppose hobby could sort of really jump straight into and do. And Creality have realized that they're going to attempt to work more with the community through Creality Forum, GitHub, to have it so that their open source root access is not only more accessible and easier to implement into the firmware system, but also, breaking news, they are going to support, I'm not sure from when, I'm pretty sure after the K1C release, February, they're going to then now support warranty support for root access device. So that is a big thing, because previously to that, there was a bit of a hit and miss as to what they would and wouldn't cover, and that by performing root access to your Creality machine, that you do so at your own risk, whereas now they are going for, I'm sure there'll be some stipulation to that, but that's a positive step in the right direction as well. So that's pretty much that. To wrap it up, just wanted to say, to the person that I've been working with behind the scene to acquire this information, I'd just like to say thank you for all your hard work. Appreciate everything done for myself. At the end of the day, I'm just a guy who, you know, loves 3D printing. I discovered 3D printing from having quite a severe back injury. I now love it. It's now become something I do full time. I appreciate all the support. I love, everyone's been super positive on the channel. So I appreciate everyone. Like, subscribe. Apologies to all the grammarly, technical, appropriate people out there if I've missed some information that it may or may not be absolutely correct. I'm still like everyone, you know, you can be as experienced as you like, but you can never stop learning. So, you know, anyone out there who's thinking about getting into 3D printing, don't think that it's too hard. You can always start. There's so many people out there that can help you. And even the professionals, you know, they understand that they were once a novice and had no idea. So I hope you've enjoyed this overview. I'm looking really forward to receiving the K1C in my hands very soon. I can't wait for that. I'm not sponsored, but I do have an affiliate link in the description. I will add the K1C when the pre-order comes out, and I may let you have a discount code. We'll see. Just joking. But all I can say is, guys, look, I appreciate the support. I hope you found this video insightful and cleared up any rumors or misconceptions about the K1C. I think it's going to be a fabulous product. I don't see how they're going to have any of the issues they had with the K1 Speedy or the K1 Mac and they were released. They've learned from those mistakes. Creality are really focused on customer support, quality control, and making sure that the customer is happy, because at the end of the day, if all those three met, that equals success for the company and that success for the people who own the printers, because they can now print better quality print a lot and with better features and better quality. So it's a win-win for everyone. And with that, I say to everyone, I hope you've had a great start to the new year. I hope you have an even better 2024. I've got another video coming out this weekend. I'm going to go over the new Creality Pi filament dryer, as well as another video for the Ender 3 V3 KE, as well as a special Sonic Pad edition utilizing Ender 3 SE with an improved dynamic fan for all those people who are just getting into printing on a budget. That's something that may be interesting to you as well. But anyway, without waffling on anymore, from down under at the bottom of the world, I'm Chris's Creations, signing out. Booyah, peace, g'day from Australia. Enjoy, have a good one. I hope you found this insightful. Like and subscribe. Comment below, help the algorithm. I'm just trying to get things out there, trying to make, you know, things accessible for people and be as honest and unbiased as possible in the community. I don't know everything. I don't proclaim to know everything, but I try my best to help people make an informed decision based on honesty and integrity. And that's what I say. So if you like what you're seeing, you like the content, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.